Chapter 7. The Formation. Outside in. Practicing a God-shaped life outwardly. Are you buying the common lie that your ability to get up close to God will never rise to your aspiration to do so? Few people have the moves of Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Britney Spears, or Justin Timberlake. That rarely prevents anyone wanting to experience the joy of dancing from doing so. Watch toddlers near a beat-thumping source, and inevitably you'll see heads bobbing, diapers bouncing, and bodies swaying. These kids and many grown-ups alike know that the joy of dancing isn't in perfect performance, but in willing participation. Shouldn't it be the same in dancing up close with God? Unfortunately, too many heart-hungry people dismiss themselves from the dance floor. They assume they could never be as close to God as someone like their pastor, mentor, or other saintly people they've known or heard of, so why even try? Defeated, they lament their inability to dance with God and watch from the sidelines as others enjoy the dance. That's Satan's lie, sold to millions. Don't buy it. Don't downsize the abundant life possibilities Jesus makes available to all by letting the deceiver convince you that's just the way life is, or this is as good as it will ever get. Let me assure you, that's not just the way life is, and there are greater things yet to come by far. You were made to know and enjoy God, live up close to Him, and do life with Him. You don't have to have all the right moves in place to dance with God. Regardless of how awkward or unnatural it may seem at times in finding yourself up close to God, all you really have to do to dance with Him is want to. That's the joy. The rest is just details, practicing what you love to do with the one you love to do it with. Doing love. Living love in your head or talking love is cheap and easy. Doing love, well, that's a whole other thing. Jesus said, "If you love me, you'll do my commands." He knew that real love demonstrates itself in action-focused love you can see. Real love may include words, but it's the detailed, active attentiveness toward the one who's captured our heart that authenticates that we mean what we say in the words, "I love you." Jesus identified true sheep who know the shepherd as those who not only hear his voice or speak words of love, but do what he says. True love acts. Do you remember Jesus' breakfast on the beach conversation with Peter when he quizzed Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" With each of Peter's spoken, "You know I do," responses, Jesus offered Peter a way to do, not think or talk, love. Peter got the message. Do you remember what followed? The Acts of the Apostles, where Peter willingly did love that never the same Pentecost day, and about 3,000 were added to their number. Love does. Are you lingering with and listening to God and then doing what He says as a genuine expression of your love toward Him? Or do you only hear God and act in the same manner as when someone, no matter how far away their voice, says, "Who's up for ice cream?" Are you as willing to listen and jump into action when God says, "Can you help me clean up this mess?" as you are when He says, "I have ice cream like good things for you"? Mature love listens well and acts quickly. During my early childhood, I was relationally isolated and misinterpreted as obstinate and disobedient. While I definitely had growing up needs, what my parents discovered in time was that my behavior wasn't a lack of obedience, but a lack of audio reception. Tests concluded I was hearing impaired. I couldn't do what I couldn't hear. On one hand, the impairment was a relief to me and my parents. It explained so much we couldn't pinpoint or understand, but on the other hand, the hearing loss presented a whole new set of challenges of how to overcome it. The only other person our family knew of in our rural county who was suffering similarly to me was 4 times my age. His suggestion? Read people's lips. Assess context and guess a lot. He meant well, and for a long time that was my approach. That was seemingly my good as life would get future. I wanted more. That's why when an experimental program in a nearby city was announced and offered for a select number of candidates, I got so excited. My parents carefully considered the program and then presented it to me as a possible option for an eventual, better future life. Even as a grade school kid, knowing it was experimental and involved time and risk, I was eager to engage whatever it required. Why? Naturally, in my mind's eye, I began to envision potential outcomes and rewards. I began dreaming what it might be like if one day I could fully engage academic, athletic, musical, and friendship environments. I thought only of the possibilities, not the liabilities. Whatever it took, I thought, for me, it's worth it. Week after week, the lengthy commute, the hundreds of medical injections, and the time-consuming process were all worth it. Results weren't guaranteed, but I was hopeful. I was told if I stayed the course, I might one day hear plays being called in neighborhood football huddles, understand classroom instructions without strain, and enjoy new to me sounds that had been around me all along. The doctors assured me that it was possible I wouldn't have to pound a piano keyboard to hear myself playing or continually face the estrangement and frustration of others as I asked them again and again and again if they would please repeat themselves. I wanted the life the doctors were cautiously optimistic about. I wanted to hear. At this point, the cost was inconsequential. Month after month of lonely straining to listen and hoping to hear sound booth hearing tests revealed progress was occurring. Over time and multiple years of treatment, along with many prayers, it all became worth it. A magnificent world of hearing became music to my ears. Let me encourage you. Whatever the health level of your ears, you have hearing potential. Jesus promises all his sheep this joyous experience of hearing, then doing love with him. If intimacy with God is our highest goal in life, then hearing, finding out what pleases him, and doing it is the highest and happiest expression of our love and affection toward him. God's success rate for a deepened life of intimacy and life impact is perfect for those willing to walk the worth it journey with him. Will you make an ongoing commitment to intently listen for God's in-ear, in-word, along the way instructions? Will you continue to lean closer and stay longer when his voice seems faint or his instructions unclear? Why not pause and listen to God right now? Ask him if there's something, anything he'd like you to do. Before you ask, commit in advance to do whatever he says, no matter how easy or difficult, enjoyable or awkward, beneficial or sacrificial it may seem. Welcome to your hearing and doing relationship with God. How exciting to listen for His voice and do as He prompts. Experiencing, including God in everyday places. Consider this. Where is God more present? In a church sanctuary or at the shopping mall? At a Bible study or near the fishing hole? In the monastery or at the museum? These are trick questions for sure. God is present in each of those places and at work in, through, and around all of them. He is everywhere present. So why limit intimate encounters with God to only weekend group worship experiences, daily quiet times, spiritual retreats, or conferences? God's plan has always involved a walking and talking, doing life together relationship in all the places and spaces of our life, sacred and ordinary. You expect God's presence at the church building, but do you equally expect and intentionally engage Him in all life's activities and times of day? Do you include Him at the gym, in your kitchen, on the golf course, the classroom, the office, the grocery store, or in the car on your daily commute? God is present in all the along-the-way places of your life. If you're not including Him in the ordinary moments of your life, you're missing the opportunity to relate to and enjoy Him as He intended everywhere. Avoid becoming like the adult version of Peter Pan in the movie Hook, when a much older Wendy wisely warns the wayward Pan, "You're not being careful, Peter, and you're missing it." God has so much He wants to do with you every day. He wants to celebrate with you, navigate life with you, face your struggles with you, help others with you. He wants to play, work, drive, relax, care, serve, yes, with you. You aren't missing it, are you? Don't ignore the right there with you God the way some disregard others in school hallway hangouts, cubicle conversations, and party gatherings. You aren't invisible to God. He doesn't want to seem invisible to you. God is present and available. He wants to be with you in all that you're doing. What's more, He can't wait to meet you in the places and spaces that look uniquely just like you. My son continuously seeks laughter and humorous sides of life every day. Recently, he shared with me, "Dad, I tell God jokes. You know how much I love to laugh, Dad? God knows that too. And I can't tell you how many times I've split a gut hysterically laughing out loud in my Jeep with God." I love knowing that my son and God have such an intimate relationship that they share times of sweet laughter together. God, who created my son, knows His love language like no other. God knows you and your love language as well. My wife teaches art. She's gifted, and it flows from her with ease. Art makes her feel fully alive. Not too long ago, she sought someone to enjoy a day at the art museum with her. Unfortunately, no one had schedule availability. Rather than alter her desire or change plans, she intentionally made it a day at the museum with God. And at the dinner table that evening, my wife reported, "It's one of the best days I've ever had appreciating art. I went with a master artist. I shared my observations and thoughts with him, and he inspiringly shared his thoughts and perspectives with me." What my wife described was an artfully intimate time with the one who made her the awesome art lover and art teacher she is. So what does it look like for God to meet you in the everyday places of your life? He's ready to meet you in it all, work, rest, or play. Take God at His "I am with you always" promise and learn to acknowledge and thank God for how at hand He is. Have conversations with Him, short, long, and every length in between, along the way and whatever you're doing and wherever you are. Maybe ask, "God, what are you up to here?" Or, "Is there something you want me to do or say, Lord?" Let questions turn to statements like, "It's really good to be here with you, Lord." Or, "God, just when I thought the sunset couldn't be any more magnificent, there you go again. Amazing." Intentionally enjoy God's presence. Be curious and expectant. Let God maximize your ordinary days. Avoid missing special opportunities where God is 100% present, but you're unintentionally checked out. Let His leading presence guide you into all the good works prepared in advance. Moments He sees and knows are possible through you. Songwriter Rich Mullins celebrated God's showing up everyday presence by singing, "Everywhere I go, I see you." It's true. Life has God's fingerprints all over it. He can easily be spotted if you open your eyes. It's not a complicated hide-and-seek game. He sees you. Do you see Him? And everywhere you go, are you inviting God to be with you and share life with you? Hunger for love words. When in love, suddenly a routine trip to the mailbox can be exciting. Compared to constantly navigating overstuffed digital inboxes, a special handwritten letter stroked with ink on special paper has a way of stirring deep emotion. Add to it a light mist of fragrance and perhaps a lipstick-pressed kiss, and wahoo! Heart swoon! No wonder so many heirloom boxes contain stacks of letters bundled in twine. Without a doubt, they are valuable and cherished love treasures. When my heart was first set ablaze by God's love, His Word enticed and enabled me to spend up-close time with Him, and like a forge, His Word began shaping me into a new creation. His living and active Word was setting my heart on fire. Affirming an absolute yes response from me as I read, "Is not my word like fire, declares the Lord." His Word warmed my heart, challenged my thinking, and prioritized what I valued most and how I arranged my days. Through God's words, He demonstrated His heart of love to make me His workmanship for His glory. Such a gift. While the letters and words may not have been in handwritten ink, the writing seemed so personal. I would sometimes lick my finger and check the ink on the page to see if those words might have been just added yesterday for me to find today. With each story and every promise echoing God's message of love and life, my gratitude rose. God was introducing and inviting me to a Jesus-following life of love. His words were fresh and alive, as relevant to my daily life as the daily bread I ate for breakfast. Over the years, God's love words, timely and true, have met me right where I am, and they've helped me to meet God where He is. Each encounter with God in His Word helps me know God's from the beginning and never-ending love story, a story so much bigger than just your life or mine. Yet, God's story most certainly includes us. Only God can take a story so grand and make it so personal. That alone makes the Bible worth reading. But there's more, much more. When you and I read God's love story, we get to know so much more than names, dates, facts, and figures. We get more than adventurous tales and sound principles for quality living. In the reading of God's story, you and I get the privilege of knowing the author of the story himself. Like the two on the Emmaus Road following Jesus' death and resurrection, we come to say, were not our hearts burning within us while He talked with us on the road and opened the Scriptures to us? Our hearts burn because they are warmed by the fire of His heart. Who wouldn't want to engage God's story with up-close-to-God results like that? Yet, a recent Lifeway Research survey cites the sad reality that a scarce few spend time with God in His Word. In fact, only 1 out of 2 people who attend church regularly read their Bible more than once a week. And 1 out of 5 nominal churchgoers say they never read their Bible at all. The Bible remains the #1 best-selling book in the world. Unfortunately, for all the buying, the Bible seems to be a better dust collector than sought-after life changer. If your Bible is collecting dust, so is your heart. You're missing out on so much God wants to show you, shape in and through you, and you're missing out on priceless time with God Himself. No guilt necessary, just action. The remedy for dust-covered Bibles and lifeless hearts is to be cleansed and renewed by the washing of the Word. Like empty cell batteries receiving a transforming, life-giving charge from a reliable power source, meeting with God in His Word will renew and strengthen you. What's more, as you read His Word will read you. And like a handwritten letter from someone most beloved, your heart will swoon. Here are a few tips to enhance your time with God in His Word. Read the Bible with pen in hand, expecting God will reveal things to you. Affirm your discipleship hunger to be like Jesus' early disciples who, as unschooled ordinary men, received a priceless treasure when Jesus opened their minds so they could understand the Scriptures. Treasure your moments with God in His Word. Keep a notebook. ForgeForward.org has spiritual life notebooks and other guides that can help you here. Don't be in a hurry. Try audibly listening to God's Word as a supplement to reading the Bible text. Many online and app-oriented Bible programs exist for more auditory learners and receivers. Choose whatever portion amounts allow you to fully share quality time with Jesus. Be assured God will meet you in a way that connects His heart, His story, and His words to yours. During dry and hard seasons of life, when reading God's Word becomes a disciplined choice, your consistent practice of diving into God's Word, like athletes giving no regard to their feelings as they rise early to work out and practice, will likely become the same practice persistency avenue on which many hearts and lives have been restored, encouraged, and reignited. So, press past feelings and press into the power source of God's recharging Word. Finally, It's not how much information you're gaining, but how much your heart of love for Him is growing. Let your thirsty spirit taste living water, and your hungry heart feast on the bread of life. God's life-shaping, forge-fire word will soul satisfy you as you engage Him in His living and active, from my heart to yours, love letter. Been on a date lately? Love goes on dates. Thriving relationships crave extended time with the one they love. They know past decisions of commitment aren't enough to fuel, stir, and grow love forward. Few of us have had the financial means and cleared agenda to always be with our loved one. The more accurate reality of life consists of busy work days, school schedules, and unending social obligations. Still, love finds a way. Actually, love makes a way. People in healthy love relationships carve out and protect time to know and enjoy one another, and as they do, intimacy deepens. Your love for God deserves special set aside and guarded times with Him. Luke 5:16 tells us Jesus often did this very thing, withdrew from people and the consuming demands always on Him to get to go on a date alone with God. What a revealing and liberating example for us. Despite all the responsibilities He faced, His highly demanding schedule, and an abbreviated lifespan to complete the work He came to accomplish, Jesus proved by example that nothing matters more than time with God. You have the possibility to do the same, to intentionally set aside time from the busy demands of life for extended times alone with God. Now, the enemy may try to distract you into believing that all you need is a daily gulp of God, but don't fall for it. Marriages don't survive on a steady diet of quick kisses out the door. Your relationship with God needs more than a daily devotion and a mealtime prayer, as good and right as both may be. Like Jesus, you were made for relaxed, set apart, extended dates with God away from the demands of everyday life. These creative and fun times with God are something you need, and if you continue to practice them, they'll most likely become something you crave. Does all this seem foreign to you? It's okay. Many people feel awkward about dating God. To them, it feels a lot like first dates, full of nerves and clumsiness and I don't know what to do next moments. If that's you, relax. Here are some dating tips to help you on your way. Dates alone with God are intentional, longer times of connection to enjoy God, to fully bring and express yourself, hear from Him, learn from Him, and share times doing things together. Discover what pleases Him and share your heart with Him. An extensive guide for taking a date alone with God can be found in the appendix. The guide and many other helpful resources are also available at forgeforward.org. For now, however, start here. Bring your heart. Let your heart find safety with God, who loves and cares for you beyond measure. He wants and deserves to be trusted as your closer than a brother, friend. He is safe. He wants you to put everything in your heart out on the table. He knows you better than anyone. He loves you, regardless of all your past, present, or future behavior, beliefs, doubts, attitudes, fears, or failures. He won't retreat. Come on, man up, woman up. Be all in with him. Enjoy getting to finally be fully yourself with the one who knows you best and loves you most. It's going to be life and love liberating. All that said, you may have experienced hurts and abuses from others that have left you raw and your heart on lockdown. If you are in self-protection or survival mode, know God understands. He loves you unconditionally. He will wait patiently. He can handle it all of you and all your stuff. God's a trustworthy date. He will honor you as you discover new ways to trust him with more of your heart. On some practical notes, intentionally set dates alone with God on your calendar and protect them. Like an observant, interacting, athletic teammate or dancing partner, participate with God and allow for his love date thoughts, ideas, and movement. Be attentive to God as you desire him to be with you. He may have his own hopes, desires, or unexpected blessings he wants to bring into your time. So listen. Above all, enjoy God. He enjoys you. It's a good thing to enjoy, take delight in each other. That's love. And these dates with him are to be an enjoyably good thing, a love thing. Love doesn't travel alone. Love doesn't travel alone. The life of a self-reliant renegade may work well for movie plots, but it doesn't cut it in love. Playing Lone Ranger or going rogue with God will never lead you closer to him. Come on. You were made to do life with you, God. But get this, with you is also meant for how you do life with others seeking to know, love, and please God. For a rare few, life's circumstances may dictate that Jesus and me is the only option. For most, however, that's simply not the case, nor is it God's design. In community and with others has always been God's intent. Why? Because God lives in community. The Father with the Son with the Spirit with the Father, and every other combination in between. As iron sharpens iron, says the wisdom writer, so one person sharpens another. God knows that love flourishes in community. That's why he's called you to it. And here's the kicker. Living in community is rarely easy. People in process often fail one another, clash in personality, and selfishly go about caring for others in ways that make bowls in china shops look graceful. That's why so many would rather go it alone. On my own doesn't have to deal with miscommunication, mishandled emotions, differing wants and needs, or who did what and who should say I'm sorry. Alone may be easier, but it isn't better. Community, with all its twists and turns, creates space for love to grow. It provides companionship, encouragement, strength, and synergy to accomplish more together than could ever be done individually. Community keeps us from isolating and insulating ourselves from God and the world around us. Left alone, we become easy prey for the roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Together, we become a band of brothers and sisters and cords not easily broken. Yes, community can be scary if you haven't already established God as your dwelling place, a safe place to come home, a place where all is well, a place where, regardless of what's experienced in a world of imperfect, insensitive, or hurtful people, you can always rely on the trustworthy welcome mat of God, a place where, once inside, He settles, calms, heals, quiets, and completes your soul in ways no other can. As you establish your heart and home in God, He will lead you to love others well in community. If love is, as one definition puts it, giving another room enough to grow, then community may be the greatest place to practice such kind of love. Don't become cynical or closed off. Expect some pain. Whether inadvertently or willfully on the part of others, pain is part of the human experience. It's also a great teacher. You may be surprised how much God grows you through challenging relationships and tough circumstances. You may also be amazed at how sweet community becomes when collectively you and others lean into God and one another. So, risk relationship. Drop unrealistic expectations of yourself and others. Acknowledge there are no perfect communities, churches, friends, or families, and give grace to the extent you want to receive it. Learn a lot. Think others first. Ask God, will you please direct my steps toward relationships you know will benefit you, me, others, and your kingdom? Be patient in the process. Finding true, reliable community relationships may take a while. And if that's the case, it's okay. God is faithful. He will provide what you need as you need it. Finally, know that community is a gift from God that burns the dross and often reveals the true metal of your love. Hard? At times, yes. Worth entering? Absolutely. Practicing life with God in painful places. Pain is never fun, but its shaping power is unequaled. Volumes of books have been written dealing with the problem of pain. Why pain exists, its purpose, and who causes or allows it are all legitimate questions and worthy of discussion. For the purposes of this book, however, we won't address those questions, but simply acknowledge that pain is real. God is present in our pain, and pain provides an opportunity to draw exponentially closer to God. Few, if any, healthy human beings ask for pain and suffering. Most spend a lot of time, energy, and money trying to avoid or diminish it. Yet, in varying degrees, every person, from their backside breath-starting slap at birth to their final, last gasp, exhale at death, faces pain. Can you retrace the painful places in your life? Maybe the events are as recent as today. However long the list, and no matter how intense the suffering, know this: God is with you. The one who suffered for you is in your suffering with you. He's not only walked through the valley of the shadow of death, he's experienced death itself and has lived to tell about it. God alone is the only qualified applicant to meet you in your deepest struggle. So, lean on him. Lean into him. If pain and suffering come with any benefit, it's the opportunity that they provide to draw us closer to the very heart of God. Some of my most cherished memories of tender moments with God are from heart-wrenching times when I cast my cares on him knowing he cares. Relationships go deeper when we've been through things together. When desired healing and favorable outcomes aren't evident, it can be difficult to trust God is present. And that's understandable. While God may seem silent or inactive, keep leaning into him. He is present. He will never abandon you. It's his promise. Open his word. Listen. Allow him to be with you, to reveal how to endure this hardship and how to glorify him in it. Pain can become a sweeter place of deeper intimacy with God than you ever knew was possible. In the furnace of your pain, God will refine your heart and life as pure gold. Of course, it's best to hear and learn this when pain is distant. Few people want to hear this is going to make you better in the long run in the midst of their suffering. Most children staring wide-eyed with mouth open in the dentist chair aren't overly interested in hearing how much better they will feel later once the infected tooth is extracted. Still, hold tightly to these assurances when pain is distant so that you can better hold on to God when pain draws near. Repeatedly lean into God, letting the reminder of your constant pain become a reminder of his constant readiness to be with you. Remind yourself that this life learning experience may be your best advantage for an increase of deeper intimacy with God than you ever believed was possible. And hold on to this hope. One day, you may look back and decidedly say, those were the most unrivaled times of intimacy I ever knew with God. Love produces bumper crops of fruit. Love bears fruit. By nature, love produces more love. Consider the birth of children. In the purest and most genuine sense of the word, children are conceived and born in love. The love between husband and wife literally bears fruit, a child. In time, our children give and produce grandchildren. Love multiplies, and with every child added to the family, love expands to make room for more. Those who love God deeply are recognizable not by how much information they know about him, but by the abundance of spiritual fruit their life bears. The promise of God is that as we remain in an up-close abiding relationship with Jesus, like branches connected to the grapevine, our lives will bear much fruit. Mouth-watering, fruitful evidence enables others to know that God and his love are for real. And when your life begins to bear the fruit of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, people can't help but take note, be drawn toward, and eventually desire to experience the love-bearing, life-giving fruit on display. No wonder Jesus said, "By their fruit you will recognize them. This week I sat across from a young adult horrifically victimized 4 years ago by a shocking event which made national headline news. Yet there he sat, arm's length from me, unbelievably exuding peace, joy, gentleness, kindness, and what looked, smelled, felt, and tasted like Christ's love. Christ was present and radiating across the table from me. This life, which could easily be a wreckage pile of broken pieces, is strong and steadfast, peaceful and kind. His intentional intimacy with God, intensified through suffering, has resulted in an amazing taste and see that the Lord is good, fruit-bearing life. Yours can too. Your next right step. Love grows when watered in grace. We tend to be easier on others and much harder on ourselves when it comes to loving God. And that's where practice must be met with abounding grace. God gives us more room to grow than we could ever imagine. Resting in and responding to that grace with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength is imperative. Let's face it, we don't always get it right. Right behavior flows from a heart that desires more than anything to love well. And God is far more interested in our desire to love and please Him than He is our attempted perfect behavior. As works in progress and under construction people, we continue to misstep and falter. That does not make us failures. It makes us human. It makes us altogether aware of our continued need for God, who is making all things, including us, new. And that's why we need practice as we grow in intimacy with God. So, what will your next step be? Where will you begin in this journey of getting up close and personal with the God who lovingly waits and longs for you to come near? How about you start with the very next step, wherever you may be? The wife of a former college football coach wrote a book about her battle with cancer. She based her approach to cancer on her husband's coaching philosophy. The book is appropriately titled, Play the Next Play. The idea of the book is that whether playing football or dealing with cancer, the key is focusing on the very next step ahead. And the same is true in pursuing a life of intimacy with God. The task may at first seem overwhelming and far-fetched, especially if you've grown accustomed to feeling far from God and inadequate for the task. God understands and knows how to meet you where you are and with what you have or think you don't have to offer. All He desires is that you take the next step of love toward Him. In relationships, love is not static or stationary. Love's either growing or diminishing. Any love journey that leads one closer to God begins with a single next step. Sometimes that step is a very first step ever taken. Sometimes it's the first step in a while. And sometimes it's an intentional about-face step of longing to be back home. That's true whether we are someone like the prodigal son who wandered far from God, or someone more like Enoch who faithfully walked with God. Wherever you are on the spectrum of intimacy with God, ask Him to show you the next step. And whatever He reveals, say, Yes, and start moving. Take the next step. Love in action is the way your life-transforming dance of intimacy with God begins. As God invites you to join Him on the action-packed dance floor of love, expect all sorts of new steps, exhilarating moves, and joy-filled moments to follow. Your intimacy with God will increase as you string your yeses together. The goal at the conclusion of your life is not hearing well thought or well understood, but rather well done. Along the way, your more intermediate necessity is the reassurance you're doing well. And you will do well as you lean into God's love, seeking the smile of His pleasure and the company of His presence with every dip, twist, and turn of your life together dance. From dancing flames to forging fire, God continues to invite you closer. What a gift that He provides inside-out practices to know and enjoy Him in deeper, more meaningful ways. That's amazing news. And so is this. Your heart on fire is not for you alone. God has plans for your set ablaze life. All your practice has eternal purpose. Ready to discover the fullness of what that is?